Thanks for tuning in to the Disembodied Screams podcast. Those returning, thank you. Those new to this podcast, welcome. Now let's get started with one of my favorite new metal bands, Cattle Decapitation. I found their music. I found extreme metal, death metal, grindcore, hardcore, whatever you want to call this stuff. Falling in love with this band, falling in love with other bands like it. I mean, Dying Fetus is up there for me now. Fulci's up there for me now. Been a Cannibal Corpse fan for a long, long time. And there was one other one I can't think of off the top of my head that I was kind of gotten into a lot as well. I like 200 Stab Wounds. I just started listening to them a little bit too. But Death Atlas, man, it's a proggy death metal album, very much similar to what Rush did back in the 70s. These big concept albums with overall themes and stories that tie into a central plot. And just really love that about this album. I mean, Bring Back the Plague is probably number one for me for songs. I know that's like their big song, and you hate to be that person sometimes. But at the same time, that's a song that put me on to Cattle Decapitation. So how can it not be number one? And I've been really looking forward to getting into Death Atlas, and I'm going to try not to ramble too much, but I really, truly just love this album from start to finish. Listened to it a few times. Of all their albums, this is the one I've listened to definitely the most. And honestly, there was an album like this that kind of maybe say, I'm going to move Rush over to here because if death metal guys are doing proggy albums, I can get away with some Rush on this podcast, I think, because I think Rush was a big influence for probably this band and many other bands. So be on the lookout for 2112 coming up. Just kind of future episode in the past. Script's done. Just got to get and record it. All right, let's go ahead and get into what I always like to dive into first with this album. And if you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube, take a look at the screen and you will see the album cover, which I gave a 4. And I mean, it's not like extremely Freddy's Nightmares, which is 6 on my scale. And it's not so vanilla that it's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which is number 1 on my scale. So my scale runs 1 to 6. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Freddy's Nightmares, somewhere in that ballpark that these albums fall, most of them. Some of them, hit 6, but not all of them, but some of them. But anyways, this album is a 4. I think it's leaning heavier towards Freddy's Nightmares because you've got like this skeleton over there kind of on one knee, almost like he's being pulled down by the weight of the earth. Like the earth is starting to crush him. And the earth itself is kind of on fire and in flames and burning up. Very horrific imagery with the earth being destroyed. He's got like a sickle over his shoulder. He could be a she. I don't want to give this a gender. This skeleton's got like a sickle. It looks very ominous. You got a little hourglass below there. It's like time is ticking out, which kind of gives you some horror vibes, apocalyptic vibes because of the horror, because of the time running out. You got the big splat of Cattle Decapitation in the corner. Looks cool. You got some reds in there, and there's some blacks, and there's some yellows. I mean, it's a really cool looking cover. It's not exactly screaming horror, but there's enough. You pull it apart and look at it, you can definitely see the horror within this cover. And it would definitely make me take a pause and go, it's a little creepy. It's a little creepy, a little spooky. So yeah, I would give the cover a 4. Title though, Death Atlas, sounds almost like a National Geographic exploration thing. We're on the Death Atlas this week. So I gave that a 2. It's not exactly screaming horror at me. It's just not. Death does have a little horror to it, but the Atlas part kind of takes away from that. So Death Atlas is leaning a lot closer to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood than it is Freddy's Nightmares. All right, so we got the cover at a 4. We got the title at a 2. And now let's get into some Apple album information. It goes like this. As longtime critics of human behavior, Cattle Decapitation once offered a t-shirt emblazoned with the slogan, "Humankind, the greatest natural disaster of all time." And honestly, humankind really has been a natural disaster. We've still been a natural disaster. We're still screwing things up and not doing what we need to do to protect our planet. It's so true. And it goes on to say, such is the theme of the San Diego Death Metal Squad's 8th album, Death Atlas, an interlude-laden Latin extremity. I misread that word. An interlude Latin extremity featuring contributions from an international cast of musicians, including Riccardo Conforti of Void of Silence, Lori La Prunec of Igor. Names on the screen if you want to read through it. If you want to hop over, if you're listening to this on the podcast and you want to go see what they look like, hop over to Spotify, hop over to YouTube. That's where they'll be. Dispater of Midnight Odyssey, and naturally John Fishman of Fish. It goes on to say this album is about how we're an extremely destructive species. Cattle Decapitation vocalist Travis Ryan tells Apple Music. We're like flies on a carcass. It's an extremely pessimistic and sad record. And I've heard Travis say this is his favorite record, and it's one to be proud of because it is an amazing record from start to finish. Death Atlas is the 7th studio album by American death metal band Cattle Decapitation. It was released on November 29th, 2019 via Metal Blade Records. Its release coincided with Black Friday and came more than 4 years after their previous studio album, 2015's The Anthropocene Extinction. These boys throw out some big words that I have a little trouble pronouncing from time to time. It says the opening track, Anthropogenic in Transmission, samples the greetings in 55 languages from the Voyager Golden record. So, again, very Rush-like in their detail. That's something Rush would have done. That's something one of those proggy bands, maybe like Styx would have done back in the day. Doing something like that. You don't hear death metal bands doing stuff like that. And it's just another reason why I love Cattle Decapitation so much, because they do unique stuff like that. That's so cool. I love that. And he goes on to say, during the production of Terracite, vocalist Travis Ryan called Death Atlas, there it is, his favorite Cattle record to date, and referred to the album as the band's magnum opus. And honestly, Death Atlas might be their magnum opus. If you put this album up against like Metallica's Master of Puppets, Slayer's Reign in Blood, maybe Megadeth's Peace Sells or Rust in Peace, those kind of albums, Anthrax is Among the Living. I don't know why I'm throwing out thrash albums, but those big ones like that, it could be. This is like their U2's Joshua Tree, or stick to Jimmy Buffett. I got my Jimmy Buffett watch on. Maybe Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes. That's his big album. It's one of those big anchor albums that just put a band into the spotlight, and it put me into the spotlight and put me into this band. So, I can't argue against him saying that. But this said 7th studio album. But didn't something else up here say 8th studio album? I can't remember. I thought it's something here said 8th studio album. I might be wrong about that, but I thought Apple said something about that. But anyways, not important. Let's go on to the personnel as I ramble a little bit. Travis Ryan is on vocals and keyboards. Again, the boys have keyboards. Death metal group having keyboards. That is amazing. I love it so much. Tracks 5 and 9. So I didn't know Travis played the keyboards. That's cool. So he's got those amazing vocals, and he stops to play keyboards from time to time. Okay, cool. Josh Elmore on lead guitar. Belisario DeMuzio, rhythm guitar. Again, names on the screen, Spotify, YouTube. Let me know if I got that wrong in the comments. Oliver Pinard on bass, and Dave McGraw on drums. Dave McGraw is a freaking octopus on drums. I've never seen a man with 2 arms play like a man, like he has 8. And he's so chill. He's just so chill. It's like the drummer of Lorna Shore. When I watch his stuff, he's so chill. He just, and he's got like, either drummer, just, that's all they're doing. Oh, well, I got a cup of coffee in my hand. It's, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. But I guess that's why I'm not playing drums for a death metal band. But it's so cool. Dave McGraw is a monster, man. Up there with all the greats that have come before him and will come after him. All right, let's get into the track list. I'm hitting 10 minutes, man. I'm in a rambling, gambling mood today. I'm telling you what. Okay, number 1, Anthropogenic in Transmission, The Geocide, Be Still Our Bleeding Hearts, Vulturous, The Great Dying, One Day Closer to the End of the World, Bring Back the Plague. God, I love that song. I was listening to that this morning, and I cannot get that song loud enough in my car. I mean, I think the cars beside me heard the car rattling. It was so loud. Absolute Destitute, The Great Dying 2, Finish Them, With All Disrespect, Time's Cruel Curtain, The Unerasable Past, and Death Atlas to close it out. And there were singles. There were singles from this album. I'm surprised to find singles from these death metal bands. But One Day Closer to the End of the World, September 5th, 2019. Bring Back the Plague, October 3rd, 2019. Death Atlas, November 21st, 2019. And Finish Them, January 19th, 2021. And I keep thinking about the Green Goblin and one of those Spider-Man movies. Finish Them. I don't know if you ever said that, but it keeps coming to my head like that. All right, let me go. I'm going to start to ramble again if I'm not careful. This also says below it, it is the band's first album to feature rhythm guitarist Belisario DiMuzio and bassist Oliver Pinard. At just under 55 minutes, it is also their longest album to date. The album debuted at number 116 on the U.S. Billboard 200 and number 56 in Germany. And Germany, I know, is a big metal country over there, so it doesn't surprise me. But 116 on the Billboard 200, man, that is crazy to think about. This death metal album, 116. What were people thinking who looked at the Billboard 200 and was like, what the heck is this dropping in the middle of all this? All right, and looking at the songs, I don't want to run back through all 14 of them, but I give the songs a 3. Again, the songs just don't pop with a lot of horror. I mean, the Geocide possibly. Vulturous has a little horror to it. The Great Dying has a little bit. Bring Back the Plague. I mean, that's very apocalyptic. But I thought overall, I kind of looked at the songs. I think I added them up. I think it was like 7-7. Right? And I thought maybe 7 were horror and 7 weren't. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a 3. So with all that said, I've got the cover rated, I've got the title rated, I've got the songs rated. So how horrific is this album after mixing it all together in a big pot? It's a 3. And if I didn't mention my scale before, I'm not sure if I did. I think I did. Number 1, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. 6, Freddy's Nightmares. I think this album itself falls very squarely into the 3 category. It's not their most horrific. It's probably their least horrific. Probably one of their best. I think maybe their best personally, but not as much horror as other releases. But I mean, like Humanure, I mean, that covers, that's a horror cover. The one with the green cover with all the dead bodies on it, that's got a lot of horror to it. The Harvest Floor I'm going to do pretty soon. Got a new subscriber over the weekend who was looking forward to seeing Death Atlas. So I hope this one didn't disappoint. And the Harvest Floor, which will come up later on in the future. But the Harvest Floor, I got to say, is up there with top 2, top 3 Cattle Decapitation covers for me. So I love that cover a lot. All right, hitting about 14 minutes. The horrific top 5. This is not landing in the horrific top 5. It's at number 3. It would have to get to Cannibal Corpse's Chaos Horrific at 4.9 to actually get there, so it's not even close. But it's not too much horror, but it's an amazing album from start to finish. All right, let me drop anchor here and close out the episode. If you like what you hear, don't forget to tap the follow button if you haven't already. If you do enjoy what I do, don't forget to rate and review this podcast wherever you are. YouTube, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. Let YouTube know I'm doing a good job here with this stuff. And basically what I'm saying here in this whole spiel is just wherever you are, pause the episode at the very end or pause right now and just find a way to give this podcast some love and help it keep growing. Share with your friends and all that jazz. All right, that's it. Take care. Thanks for listening. Go listening to Death Atlas today. And drop in the comments below how amazing this album is and how amazing Bring Back the Plague is. Be good.